Hello, and welcome once again to Tuesdays with Lloyd's, a continuing virtual dialogue with Lloyd's underwriters and their distribution partners in London and the US. My name is Pat Talley, Regional Director and Managing Agent Practice Group Leader for Lloyd's in the US. Today, our focus will be on delegated authority at Lloyd's. Lloyd's uses the term coverholder to identify an entity holding one or more binding authority contracts from the market. And this distribution model, having Lloyd's pen, if you will, is critically important to Lloyd's business in the US. There are currently more than 1,300 cover holders in the United States, and in 2020, they produced about 31% of US premium. Our guests for today's roundtable are Ben Thomas, Operational Manager in the Business Transformation Division at Lloyd's, and Dexter Bransby, Stakeholder Manager in Global Operations at Lloyd's. Our moderator for today's session is my colleague Rodney Smith, U.S. Regional Director and Coverholder Practice Group Leader for Lloyd's in the U.S. We've included a brief biography for each of our panelists in the chat box for your further review. Before we begin, just a bit of housekeeping. We strongly encourage you to ask questions during the discussion, but please do use the Q&A tool and not the chat feature. This makes it easier for us to manage the queue, so we're able to answer as many questions as possible. All of our sessions are streamed live on Lloyd's YouTube channel and are recorded to allow future on-demand viewing. So we hope you'll take a moment to refer the channel to any colleagues or clients you think might be interested, and we'll drop a link to the channel in the chat box momentarily. And with that, welcome again to our guests, and Rod, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks for the introduction and welcome everybody. So today is going to be about cover holders. We're going to talk about a lot of the systems, so it'll be a bit more technical than what we've seen in the past. But just to set the stage so you have an understanding of what cover holders are for us globally, as well as what we do with cover holders here in the US, I have a few quick slides I want to share. Let's get that shared. There we go. So this is just a global shot showing you where our cover holders are located around the globe. As you can see in the US, about 1,200 or 1,300. That number varies up and down year by year. We always are adding additional cover holders each year, but also we have cover holders that go through kind of mergers and acquisitions. So they may blend into other cover holders. But generally, the cover holder model is very strong in the US. It's a big part of what we do here. There we go. So just to give you a sense of that, so now we're looking at just the US numbers. And when you look at this, you can see that the cover holders generate about 32% of all of the revenue from 2020 into the Lloyd's market. So again, a very strong distribution channel for us in the US, generating several billions in premium. As a matter of fact, we'll get into that premium number in just a second. To give you a sense of where we are in the US, this kind of shows you a map that outlines both where the cover holders are domiciled, but then also is showing you how the E&S premium stacks up in a state. So as you see a state getting darker, that means there's more E&S premium written within that state. That is not just Lloyd's premium, that's total E&S premium, but that gives you a sense of kind of how the US breaks out for us. And then you see here our top 5 cover holder states. And so California is our largest, then we have Texas, New York, Illinois, and then of course Florida as well. And within those bars, you see breakdowns of the classes of business. So I did mention the production here in the US. We are at 6.6 billion for 2020. You'll note that we did have a decline in from 2019 to 2020. And a lot of that premium went over into the open market. So if you were to look at Lloyd's as a total in the US, we did grow from 2019 to 2020. However, the cover holder piece of that business declined a bit, and more of that capacity, more of that premium came through the open market as well as the reinsurance market. Then we've got the cover holder business. Again, this is US only, just broken out by class of business. So you can see there that property is our largest by far at 3.3 billion. But then we have casualty, financial professional, and casualty other at $1 billion each. So often people think of Lloyd's as a property writer, catastrophic market, that type of thing. But when you look at it, we actually do have a fair amount of casualty business written, especially through our cover holders here in the US. As a matter of fact, the cover holder business on the casualty side is growing at about 3 times the rate that we see the property piece of the business growing. So we do expect to see the casualty, whether it's financial professional or casualty other, continue to grow for us in this platform. And then finally, there is something called the Coverholder Toolbox. So if you just go to Lloyd's and type in Coverholder Toolbox, or go to Google and type in Lloyd's Coverholder Toolbox, you'll find a lot of different tools that are available to cover holders there. You see kind of a whole list of different things here: wording repository and crystal. And then also down at the bottom, I've kind of highlighted this in red. So today we're going to talk about two things, really. We're going to talk about Coverholder Workbench, which is a quote issue bind system. And then we're also going to have Ben talk about DCOM, which is one of the new systems that's coming online for us in the future. So with that, I'll drop off of my slides here. Let me just get off of there. All right, I think I'm off my slide. Is that correct, Ben?
I believe so, yes.
Fantastic.
Great, thank you very much, Rodney. And yeah, good morning and good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Ben Thomas. I'm an operational manager here at Lloyd. Currently, I've been on a secondment working on one of our digital transformation projects on the DCOM system. And I'm going to talk to you about that at a high level shortly. But before I do that, I just wanted to talk about the wider DBA initiatives and some of the key messages which we've currently got within our Blueprint 2. So all of you are part of an insurance market that has never stood still. And over the past 3 centuries, as the needs of our customers have evolved, Lloyd's and the London market has continued to innovate and change. And even to this day, we continue to modernize through the Future at Lloyd's Blueprint, which is quite significant because we can't afford to stand still. Now, I'm sure many of you will have seen the Blueprint 2 document. However, for those of you who haven't, it details what we intend to deliver at the second phase of our Future at Lloyd's initiative, but also our strategy about how we intend to build the most advanced insurance market in the world. Now, it is a plan which is to deliver on our priorities that we've been working on over the last couple of years, but also what we intend to do for the remainder of 2021 and 2022 also. So the key messages from the Blueprint is we are creating a first-class digital marketplace that is data-driven and digitally enabled. We're redefining end-to-end journeys and establishing new ways of doing business so that we can provide certainty, immediacy, and also transparency with what we do. We want easy-to-adopt solutions that deliver real value throughout the value chain. At the heart of that will be straight-through processing, right first-time contracts, so that we can reduce the current errors that exist within the process. This will all be underpinned by modern technical architecture to have a marketplace that is connected with the Lloyd's ecosystem. Now, whilst Blueprint 2 covers modernizing many aspects of the market, I'm just going to focus on the digital transformation currently taking place within Lloyd's and specifically to DCOM. So for those that you may not know, but approximately 40% of Lloyd's business comes from delegated authority, meaning that this is one of our most important channels. And to protect and grow the segment, we need to modernize and make business processing fit for the future. So our vision is to have a single ecosystem where everything is connected, with minimal touch points, reducing the number of downstream errors, reduce the costly administration fees, which are currently in place, also enable a sustainable growth for delegated authority business for years to come. And the slide that you can see now shows how this is going to work. So what we can see here is we've got the key processes in managing delegated authority business and the solution that Lloyd's are delivering to support this process. So we call this a cheese wheel. We've got kind of 7 of the key processes, from inquiries and approvals to facility and risk placement, claims, reporting, settlement, and oversight. Now, some of these systems are already in place, which have been delivered over the past couple of years, such as Delegated Data Manager, formerly known as DA-SATS, and also the Delegated Audit Manager, formerly known as AIMS. Now, we have a lot more work to do, and you can see on the right-hand side of the wheel for the systems written in blue that this is what we're currently working on, and some, again, like Coverholder Workbench, is there too. But this is what we're now working on so that we can really start to drive this single seamless delegated authority ecosystem. And Section 1 and 2 provide the foundation for the rest of the wheel. So even though we've got some solutions which have been delivered, we need to do additional enhancement work to those platforms so that we can integrate and take advantage of the benefits that we've currently got, or that will currently be delivered from the systems 1 and 2. Now, what is important to say here is that we need to think of this holistically as a connected ecosystem, because not all the things on here will be used by everybody. It's not a one size fits all. The true value of this ecosystem will be how they all link together, and that's where we'll be able to unlock real benefits to end users, and it's quite exciting. What we're going to specifically focus on today is from my perspective, is the two systems which I've highlighted on the right-hand side. So inquiries and approvals and binder placement. Now, inquiries and approvals is currently done with Atlas, and the binder placement currently done with BAR, which many of you will be familiar with. These are being replaced by a single system called DCOM, Delegated Contract and Oversight Manager. However, as part of Release 1, which is really exciting that it's taking place next week, Monday, the 26th of July, this only covers the BAR element of the build, okay? So at this moment in time, Atlas will stay in its current format. But I'll just say a few words about the Atlas piece, because I think that will be really valuable to many of you cover holders out there. So the replacement of Atlas, this will allow for smarter approval database oversight for cover holders. Okay? And this is a vital component of the ecosystem, because as we continue to modernize and move the market forward and grow our business, we need to improve the way that we undertake regulatory oversight. Now, one thing just to note with this is we haven't started the build for it, but we will engage with cover holders, country managers, and partner with the market to research, design, and iteratively develop this product so that we get it right for everybody. And it's going to be quite exciting, but we have a comms team who will reach out to the necessary stakeholders when we're in a position to start our discovery and research activity. Next on the wheel is the binder placement, Delegated Contract Manager. And some of you will know a lot about this, others of you won't, but what this does is it will allow for a consistent database registration of contracts. And as part of the Contract Manager functionality, we are able to develop an elective contract builder tool, which is really innovative, and it means that we'll be able to collaborate on contracts digitally, which is really exciting, okay? And this system also represents an exciting opportunity to build a data-first solution that feeds into other systems. So the knock-on impact of this feeding into Delegated Data Manager, Delegated Audit Manager, so we start to reduce that double data entry effort that is currently taking place across the market. So that is those two systems at a high level. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to drill down into the Delegated Contract Manager system a little bit more. And what's important to note at this stage, especially for cover holders, is it's not going to affect you at this moment in time. Okay, we will let you know when it's time to start getting you involved. But you may see some differences going forward, such as you may see the format of your slips might be slightly changed just due to the new structured data capture within the system, but it's still all the same information. But importantly, the ambition is for you to sign and place using it in the future. But again, we'll communicate this with you. So the vision, obviously, of this system is to replace BAR, but it's also going to solve and tackle many of the pain points that we currently have in the market. So as most of you currently read the contracts, you will all know about the quality of the contracts that can vary, they're not consistent in terms of the structure of the data, and also they can be hard to read. So you can see here what we're trying to solve. On the left-hand side of this slide, we have the current challenges of the ecosystem. So the effort required, we have to enter multiple data into various systems across the ecosystem. There's a lot of administration involved. The clarity of contracts is challenging. Offline endorsements make understanding contracts very difficult at a certain point in time. That's incredibly challenging audits and so on. The structure is inconsistent. There's no one version of the truth. The delays in getting premiums signed and the duplication of checking is extensive. And again, it all makes the process far more challenging than it needs to be. And we have fragmented systems which were built, in the 90s and early 2000s, which we had to update, and we need to take advantage of new technologies available to us. And on the right-hand side, what we have is the future Lloyd's ecosystem, benefits that we'll have once we have fully complete the contract manager and oversight manager piece. So the effort will be significantly reduced. Will be limited rekeying of data because it will flow from one through to another. The structured data and contracts will be consistent across the board. There'll be no need for checks for DXC, and we'll have right first time contract creation, which will reduce the time that it currently takes to register contracts. And this will also give us the ability to create evergreen binders, which is something that the market will welcome, and again is another exciting time for us. So I'll move on, and whilst we just spoke about the kind of the full fat version, what we've got on this slide here is what will be coming in release 1 and also future releases. So as I said, future release 1 takes place next week, Monday the 26th of July, and we'll have the bar replacement, so the full contract lifecycle management tool with the registration of new business, endorsements, and renewals. We'll have the partial contract builder. We'll also have the contract record functionality, so that we'll be able to view contracts at a certain point in time with a single digital record, which will have all of the endorsement, renewal, and linked registrations, and so on. We'll have data validations, which will support users in getting the setup right first time. But we'll also have a dynamic question set, so users only have to populate information specific to the template they're using to register their business. And also the electronic share functionality, should users want to use the contract builder tool from the off, we'll be able to collaborate digitally with the parties involved. So that's really exciting. And again, the main benefits of this, obviously, the reduced data entry, the enhanced data capture and quality, and the improved messaging to the end users. Future releases will focus on the DDM feed, so where we fully integrate DCOM with DDM, the right first time contracts, but also the electronic placement and full contract builder, such as the MRC being fully completed, and so on. So that's kind of where we are for release 1 and the future releases at a very high level. But I appreciate just talking about that is not always the best thing to do to bring it to life. So what we do have is a video which we're going to show next, which basically just shows the system in its current format, just to bring it to life a little bit for you guys. And I think Mark is going to kindly share this for us. So I'll stop sharing now. Delegated Contract Manager, the replacement of BAR, providing a consistent, transparent data-based registration of contracts. The core data record for binders, where data will feed downstream systems, creating the foundation of a single, seamless, delegated authority ecosystem. An intuitive user experience with data at its core. Task overview dashboards. Direct access to the market support portal. A central hub to explore knowledge articles, training material, and raise support requests. Registering a contract, select your agreement template. Tooltips provide extra guidance, and a How It Works panel provides on-screen support. Field validations enhance data quality. Dynamic question sets guarantee users only populate essential data structured data ensures consistent contract format and usability of data. Data validations reduce downstream errors. Integration with other Lloyd systems such as the Market Participant Register further reduce data entry effort. Electronic share functionality facilitating digital collaboration. Upload supporting documents and generate draft versions of your contract in a Word document. Registrations can be downloaded at any point in time in PDF format. Contract Record enables full contract lifecycle management, gives an overview of the registration details and actions, a central hub where contracts can be duplicated and renewed with speed and efficiency. Document Library contains all articles associated with the record and easily find linked and related contracts. Contract History shows a digital record of all activity conducted. And our new time travel functionality revolutionizes the way to view historic contract positions at a single point in time effortlessly. The system will develop over time as we build on our vision to provide a seamless delegated authority ecosystem with right first-time contracts, collaboration, and placement. I never thought that when I put that video together that I'd have to sit and listen to my own voice. So message for me next time not to use my own voice as a voiceover. Okay, thanks for playing that, Mark. So what I just wanted to go through next with you guys was what we've done so far. Okay, so previously we've been working on the build of this system now for the past couple of years, but we were working under the DA program, but we've now moved underneath the future at Lloyd so we can fully take advantage of their digital expertise, which is great. We successfully piloted the system back in December last year with 2 managing agents, and we completed our market acceptance testing back in April, which was done over 7 weeks and 29 market participants. And off the back of that, we were able to introduce several enhancements for go live next week. We've carried out all of our UAT and security and penetration testing, which has all been concluded. The training so far, we've built a new market support portal so market users can self-serve. They can also find knowledge articles and videos on there to help them navigating themselves around the system. And we have had 376 entities who have signed the MUA and registered their organizations users in DCOM. So we are ready to go live next week, which is great. We take a quick look at what is coming up. So release 1 goes live next week, but we've already been working on release 1.1 and the build for that was completed last week, which is great news. So we're really starting to work at speed now. And what will be coming up in that release is functionality for midterm broker change. So this will allow brokers to self-serve using this service and make the required changes as and when they happen. We have done significant work on validations and enhancing error messages, so it's a more intuitive user experience. And also we've done a lot of work on the DDM integration, which is probably the most exciting part. So once the data is entered into DCOM, it will then flow through APIs into DDM, which means that we now start to remove the duplication of data entry. But that is a significant piece of work, which we will continue in release 1.2 as well. So that's very exciting. And then finally, for the delegated contract and oversight manager kind of roadmap, for 2021, we'll be continuing to work on the DCOM and DVM integration. The bar replacement goes live next week. And also we'll be looking to pilot continuous binder contracts, which is very exciting. And this is something that we've not done before. And the reason that we're now going to be in a position to be able to do this is because we're going to have that quality data, and this will eliminate the need for the renewal process. So where a cover holder has submitted all premium, risk, and claim data that meets the relevant requirements into DVM, and Lloyd will permit evergreen binders to be placed that will continue unless or until they are cancelled. But that is something that we're going to be piloting towards the end of this year, which is very, very exciting. And then in 2022, we'll look at to continue the work on the full contract builder, the cover holder and DCA onboarding process, which I spoke about earlier about the replacement of Atlas, and also we'll be looking at working on the streamlined compliance. So in short, this system, the main benefits for cover holders, you're going to have, once you have access, more oversight of contracts. You'll have real-time visibility of contract progress. It will be easier to make changes and updates to contracts, the access to better reporting, which will enable richer kind of business insights. And as I mentioned previously, the ability for you to sign and place on the system is an ambition of ours as well. So hopefully you can see the true value of an interconnected DA ecosystem will play a crucial part in our business for the years to come. These are essential solutions that will enable us to protect our marketplace and continue to better serve our customers, which is really important. And also, I hope you can appreciate that this is incredibly complex. And so it's going to be a journey that we're on for quite some time, but we really appreciate the support that everybody has given us. I will stop there because I appreciate I've thrown so much at you. I think I'm potentially now handing over to Dexter, and then we'll do questions and answers after. Is that right, Rodney?
That's correct, yes.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ben. Can you hear me okay, your end?
Yes.
Fantastic. Quick introduction, everyone. My name is Dexter Bransby. I sit with the Global Operations team. Today, actually here in the Lloyd's building in London. So it's a pleasure to join you from the Lloyd's building again. And it's great to see so many of you on the call today, particularly those cover holders. This session will really be focused on as we go through. So I am going to be really picking up that cheese wheel that we just heard from Ben, whereby he was talking about the first two segments there around how binders are going to be created and registered in the new DCOM system. I'm going to be focusing on the third segment of that wheel, which is the risk placement option. I'm really going to be focusing on what it means for you as a cover holder and on what it can do for your business. Now, Cover Holder Workbench is not currently, and there is no immediate plans for it to be a mandated system that you have to use to do business at Lloyd's. It is very much optional. Okay? But as we've seen on that ecosystem, for those users of Cover Holder Workbench as their policy management system doing business with Lloyd's, it does join up quite nicely, particularly with the data flow from the various systems. So what is it? Well, Cover Holder Workbench is a new delegated authority placement platform, which has been developed by Lloyd's. Okay? And it removes barriers to entry and really helps cover holders write business more quickly, more transparently, and effectively than before. As we heard from the team earlier, cover holders account for around 30% of the premium or the Lloyd's premium. Yet we know inefficiencies still exist in the delegated authority market. We know that many firms are still relying on manual processes, such as spreadsheet bordereau, and that they are using multiple systems to administer and report on their Lloyd's business. Therefore, having identified the need, we partnered up with a software provider, and we designed and developed the Workbench system, which is a configurable cloud-based platform. And it brings together all the essential trading tools for coverholders. Things such as rating, quoting, document issuance, premium handling, all into one system, which will eventually provide a direct feed into what we call Delegated Data Manager, which is going to be the market's central data capture platform. For those of you that know, the current system is DA SATS, and DDM is the upgrade to the DA SATS system. The system automates many of the manual tasks that coverholders are doing at the moment. And through the design and streamlining the workflows, we've significantly reduced the amount of rekeying and human error that brings cost savings and efficiencies directly to the coverholders. It also delivers additional efficiencies by allowing market participants to share accurate and consistent data in near real time, enabling better decision making and bringing products to customers quicker. And we'll see how some of these key functions are built into the system when we actually look at the interface, so you can see what it looks like firsthand. So one of the Coverholder Workbench's most important functions is the simple production of digital bordereau. Okay? And one of, if not our unique selling point for Coverholder Workbench, is that it produces fully compliant bordereau to the Lloyd's Coverholder reporting standards. Okay? That's current version, I believe, 5.2. To the standard required for the class of business and the territory that the risk or that the home state is selected. And this can be generated whenever needed. So sort of gone are the days when bordereau is produced on a fixed monthly or quarterly basis. Yourself as the cover holder, or indeed your Lloyd's broker, can generate the bordereau at any particular given time. So what does that mean for the cover holder, for the end user? Well, it spells the beginning of the end for spreadsheets, giving capacity providers real-time visibility over their delegated authority business, rather than operating on a lag of several weeks. If you as a cover holder book a piece of business in before month end, the syndicate, the Lloyd's broker, will still be able to get sight of that risk through the Workbench system. And whilst we're on additional stakeholders, such as your Lloyd's broker and your syndicates, they'll also have access to enriched data from Workbench cover holders, such as quote to bind ratios, the technical versus offered prices. They can even look at the estimated premium income, the EPI, themselves, and run bespoke reports to get a much better overview of the binders that you have with syndicates. For new cover holders, or for existing cover holders that are bringing new products to market, the system significantly reduces that time to market. And removes the risk of system limitations holding cover holders back from winning Lloyd's approval. That's because this is a Lloyd's approved policy management system. So if you are going through the cover holder approval process, or you are looking to bring a new product line into Lloyd's with Lloyd's capacity, then it expedites that time. Okay, so let's say you've got a capacity provider and you need a system to manage that product. Then Workbench gets you trading with Lloyd's and reporting to the required standard within a few weeks. Okay. Typically speaking, for the onboarding process, if you are a new user to Coverholder Workbench and you've got a minimum of one binder, one product with Lloyd's, we can get you up and running from between 6 to 12 weeks, depending on the complexity of the product. If you are already an existing user and you are bringing a new product line, then we're talking a matter of weeks to get that product online for you to trade with and then report the business to Lloyd's. Okay. What I'm going to do now is share my screen with you all, so you can actually see the system firsthand, and we will work through a typical process that a cover holder, somebody who holds the pen to write delegated authority business, would go through if they are using the Coverholder Workbench system. I'll just share my screen with you all now. So hopefully you can all see that. This is the login screen, and we will go ahead and log in. We come to the splash page. Okay, so we've got three primary areas here: work, inquiry, and search. We're not going to go into search. It's self-explanatory. You use the search function to search for policies that are in flight, to search for clients, to search for brokers, and that could be using zip codes, surnames, policy reference numbers. We then have work. Okay, we're going to have a quick look at work. So we'll go into the work function. And this is where a cover holder would manage their day-to-day activity if they have products on the Coverholder Workbench system. Just going to remove a couple of these filters to make it a little bit easy to read for you. Now, each one of these coloured blocks is a piece of work that's in flight, and we're going to be picking up on one of these shortly. And they move from left to right across this workflow management tool called the Kanban. And if you are a cover holder, then it's things that you would expect. It's things like capture rating data. So as part of the onboarding process, whichever your product or products may be, let's say it's a marine product, then we would build a question set out for you so that the data capture enables the system to rate or price the product accordingly, if that's something you would like the system to do, to auto rate the product. It will also capture any of the data that's required for the purposes of downstream reporting, so to go onto the bordereau. And importantly, any data that needs to be pulled across to the policy documentation. So any risk data that needs to go onto schedules. It's all captured here and then pulled through to where it needs to be. So it goes back to my point around minimizing the need for rekeying. The data is entered at the front end and then pulled through to where it needs to be. As we move through the process, we get our quotes. Quotes come out. We review our quotes. We add any taxes and deductions, things like surplus lines taxes, any brokerage, any commission for what we're making on the risk. We then have the functionality to send quotes out from the Workbench system, whereby it will then sit in a pending client review area. Something we're waiting for something to be done with that. And the system affords the user to upload any supporting information that may have been requested, to add notes, to review the timeline of who did what when, and to go back and add any of the data that wasn't available during the quote stage. Because we know quite rightly that more often than not, all the data that's required, particularly for the Lloyd's bordereau reporting, isn't available during the quote stage. So we've designed the system so that you can get a quote out very quickly with minimum data capture, and then come back at a later stage to input that data that was missing. There's a referral area as well. This is both for internal referrals within your organization, if you are a cover holder, or you can refer directly back to your syndicate underwriter so that they can go into the Workbench system, review the risks themselves, add any subjectivities, if there are any, or clauses to that particular risk, in order for it to progress much more expediently. We then come on to selecting the quotes that we're actually going to bind if it's reached that stage. Capturing any pre-bind data and any billing data. So the system will generate invoices on behalf of the user as well, with a breakdown of the premium, including the taxes and fees. And similar to the quotation documents, as you would expect from any policy management system, it produces the policy documentation as well on an automated basis. Okay. What that means is we will take templates of the documentation that you're producing now, both the static wording and the dynamic wording, so that the selections that you make during the data capture and the data that you enter in turn creates the correct documentation. It can have your branding. It will also produce the Lloyd's jackets to wrap around any certificates as well, so that the documentation is fully compliant depending upon the state that the business is being written in, or the home state that's selected. And then finally, renewals. Okay, so we've got an auto wake-up function within Coverholder Workbench, so that at a certain stage in time, let's say that's 30, 60, 90 days in advance of the natural expiry date on the policy, it will pop up here as a renewal, so that you know you need to do something with it. You need to quote for next year's quote terms for next year's business. Okay. So that is the workflow management tool. I am going to pick up a piece of work which I started just over an hour ago, which was a new diary action involving a general liability product, whereby I got to the stage that I had quoted for the business. So I went through the data capture stage, answering the question set in order to generate a price. And the system has returned a price for me, which is essentially the technical price, which would be in line with the underwriter's rates that have been provided to you from your capacity providers. What you then do with that quote depends upon the permissions within the binder. You can wait, you can discount that price. If you've got a domestic product that you bolt on, and that can be added on, and the premium can be attributed to that. If your product requires you to offer TRIA as well to the insured, again, that can be applied. What I'm going to do is go in and actually just show you how we apply some taxes and deductions, because that should be quite interesting for you. So I'm going to go into that particular quote. And select the deductions and taxes option, and then start adding these in. So what we've done with Coverholder Workbench is, depending upon the home state that's been selected for the risk, this is all surplus lines, non-admitted business, that home state selection will drive the deduction types that appear in this drop-down menu. And as it happens, Alabama only has a surplus lines premium tax that needs to be applied for that state. So we'll select that. We'll insert the amount as per the tax schedule. Let's say it's $150. Save that. We can add some deductions. I'll add one So let's go for coverholder commission, and say we're making, let's say we're making 25 points on the premium. Save that. The system then knows that we've applied our taxes and deductions, and we can send it out to the client. So we now get an email screen with some documents that have been produced from the system, the original quote and the revised quote with the taxes and deductions. Before we send them out, if we wanted to check them, we could. In a window pane, whereby if we weren't happy with the quote document, ordinarily there would be a lot more wording here, statement of facts, etc. But this is just a demonstration. We can download, we can make those changes and re-upload to the system. I'm happy with that one. So what I'm going to do, send it out. So I go to overview, select the quote, and send it out. It then moves along to the pending client review area, which we saw earlier, waiting for something to be done with it. Well, when we come back, we can see what's been produced from the system already and what's been sent out, any emails that have been automatically generated, if anyone has made any comments on this risk, and a timeline of who did what when. It's quite handy if someone else is picking this up on your behalf. So I'm going to assume that we've received a response, and it now moves to ready to buy. So I'm going to select the quote that has been agreed upon. It could be more than one. And actually go ahead and book that piece of business in the system. Say, no, it wasn't referred to London. No, they didn't take the offer of Trier. We review our deductions and taxes to make sure that they are correct. We could go back and amend these now if the tax schedule wasn't available when we were sending our quotes out. So that worked through. And then what we go through now is a similar exercise that we saw earlier with the quote document, but what we're going to see is the policy documentation that's now been produced from the system. So let that load up. So now we've got our policy document there that's been made available to us. There'll also be an invoice that will drop in shortly as well, so we can send out a debit note. If we want to have a look at the documentation again, we can. So let's do that. This is a typical Lloyd certificate. Most of this is static wording. This would be where the schedule information would be, so the deck page with the coverage, breakdown of the premium, and then a Trier clause there. Of course, this is very configurable. The cover holders that we have on board use a variety of policy holder documentation, from simple deck pages to policy certificates that contain hundreds of pages, particularly for accident and health. So it will be built out according to your specifications. So I'm going to select that policy in the overview. My invoice has dropped in as well, so I can send it out at the same time and then send it off. Okay. And that is now a completed risk. And so that is now a policy that the system has been booked. All the risk level data is now pulled through in the background to the risk bordereau, which can in theory be run shortly afterwards, if that's something that you'd like to do. And then in terms of premium payments, when you receive the premium payment for that particular risk, be that a full payment, an installment, a part payment, then you have to cash match that in the system. So you match the premium off in the system. That then generates the premium, the line on the premium bordereau. So you can then report back to through your Lloyd's broker that you've been paid the premium. It's not a full accounting and settlement system. It is very much a cash matching system, if there are any questions on that. I think, Rod, that probably brings me up to my time, which is affording us around 10 minutes for questions, if there are any.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, Dex. And as it turns out, Coverholder Workbench generated quite a few questions. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read off a few questions and we'll let you address those. So
I'll do my best.
So within the work demo that you presented, do you envision the functionality and turnaround timelines for customization and changes for quoting insurance? So for example, adding forms, modifying rating methodologies, who controls the system changes and updates?
So in terms of changes to the rates, the initial setup of the Workbench system is as much as we would take a copy of the rating matrix and the rates for that year, and build those in so that as the user answers the question set, they get the technical price returned to them. If there were any midterm adjustments on those rates, currently the cover holder wouldn't be able to make those changes themselves. They have to, or their underwriter would have to provide us with a copy of the new rates. We would make the changes on behalf of the user. If we were coming towards the end of the year, the binder is going to be renewed and there's going to be new rates. If we get those in advance of the expiry date of the current binder, we can have two sets of rates in the Coverholder Workbench system so that the cover holder can quote for next year's terms without having to wait for the binder to actually incept. Great.
Thank you for that. So the other one of the other questions, so will cover holders be charged to use the policy system? And I think what they're saying is, will cover holders be charged to use Coverholder Workbench?
So you'll be pleased to hear that as a existing Lloyd's cover holder, or indeed if you have aspirations to become an appointed representative thereof, Lloyd's are offering the Coverholder Workbench system on a free for the first year basis. What that means is you won't pay for any implementation or onboarding for the first year. After the first year, if you remain on the system, then there will be a small charge of around about £10,000 sterling per year per cover holder, to cover the license fee that gets passed on to us as Lloyd's.
Great, thanks. And so you mentioned also in the kind of startup or install phase, obviously there's a lot of programming that goes on with that. And you said if it's a new product, it takes several weeks, and it's a little quicker if it's kind of existing for the cover holder. Are those done in-house? Is it virtual? How do they actually have to physically be within the cover holders' offices to set these up?
So we have an onboarding process that the cover holder goes through. There's two types of onboarding. You're either onboarding as a new user to Coverholder Workbench, whereby we are requesting things like document templates, rating matrices, users, which brokers you have relationships with. We're building the question set out for your first products that come onto Coverholder Workbench. That takes between 6 to 12 weeks, depending upon the product and the complexity of it. The other side of onboarding is if you are an existing subscriber to Coverholder Workbench and you have a new product that you're bringing online, then the time's reduced because a lot of the information we already have, and more often than not, we'll be able to recycle similar products, so A&H products, marine products, property, those types of products. The question sets don't differ wildly, so we can expedite the time to bring new products onto the Coverholder Workbench system.
Great, great. So we have two questions that are similar here, and they're both kind of API. So one is, can Workbench, Coverholder Workbench, communicate with other systems? And then the other question was, can we kind of API our data into Coverholder Workbench and not have to manually enter the data?
So the first APIs that will be coming out of Coverholder Workbench will likely be into Lloyd systems that Ben spoke about earlier, DCOM, DDM, so that the data is passing through much more easily. If after a period of time whereby we have a firm user base of surplus lines cover holders on the Workbench system, and there is an increasing ask for APIs to be built so that, as you say, they can plug into their own client acquisition systems or premium reconciliation systems, then we will look at that. And if it's a benefit to the market and a benefit to Lloyd's, we will go through that exercise. Currently, there are no APIs in or out of Workbench. It is a standalone system.
Standalone. Okay, good. So there's a question here. First comment on the question is great demo. So good job there, Dex. And then the question was, so what's the symmetry or collaboration between the cover holder, the London broker, and the Lloyd syndicate? So is there some advantage to using a cover holder Workbench system when you're working with your broker and your underwriter?
So let's talk about the broker first. So if you as the cover holder are willing for your broker, your Lloyd's broker, to have access to the cover holder Workbench system in its entirety, they will be able to see everything you can see. So they will be able to see what you're quoting, what you're binding, some of the bespoke reports, they can run themselves as well. The main benefit, though, for the Lloyd's broker is that the bordereau that they receive is in the correct template to be loaded into Delegated Data Manager with the correct data. So they're not having to transform that bordereau in order to get it into the Lloyd's systems. It is in the correct template to the correct standard. On the syndicate side, on the underwriting side, there is the referral area that we spoke about. So underwriters, as in your syndicate underwriters, can go into the Workbench system and review the risks within the Workbench system. So there's no sort of lost in translation data because it's all recorded there. And they will also have access to the enriched data. So they will be able to run reports on things like, out of the policies that the cover holder's written to date, what does that mean in terms of EPI for the remainder of the year? What are the trends? Where are the risks being written certain times of the year? There's lots of enriched data that will be made available to syndicates that go well above and beyond what they receive now through the bordereau.
Great, great. So we're at the top of the hour now. Just one quick question for you there. So is there a potential to use Coverholder Workbench as a policy issuance and invoicing system, but not as a rating suite?
Yeah, so it's very configurable. If you don't wish it to auto rate, then just manually enter the premiums yourself.
Great, great. All right, well, good deal. Thanks so much for all your questions, everybody, and for participating on the call today. We do have links into the chat if you have any questions about what Ben was talking about or what Dex was talking about today. Certainly, if you have a question that didn't get answered or if you wanted to ask it privately, please feel free to contact me, rodney.smith@lloyds.com. With that, I'll turn it back over to Pat to have him kind of wrap it up and tell us about the future. Thanks.
Thanks, Rod. Appreciate that. Well, really, we'll just do a quick close. That brings us to the end of our session today. I hope you learned something more about the complete picture of the delegated authority landscape at Lloyd's. That will do it for the rest of July for Tuesdays with Lloyd's. And we also want to remind you that we will be taking off the month of August. We'll be using that time to continue working on several ideas that we currently have in development to further expand the content and the presentation formats we use in producing Tuesdays with Lloyd's. Our first session after that break will be Tuesday, September 7th, when we will host SCORE as part of our ongoing Syndicate Showcase series. That will be followed on Tuesday, September 14th with a roundtable discussion of parametric solutions at Lloyd's. When the session ends here in a moment, you'll receive a brief 4-question survey. Please do take a moment to fill these out, and we appreciate your being candid in your remarks. It's as your feedback is what really drives content, and it's the best measure we have for making sure we're staying on the straight and narrow. You can also drop us a note anytime at usevents@lloyds.com. So as our tagline goes, let's keep staying connected, and until September 7th, take care and have a great rest of your day.